the quiet farm, and the first sign of trouble. Ethan Morgan never imagined that a peaceful Texas ranch could turn into a battlefield overnight. His 30-acre haven just outside Austin was his dream, a place to live self-sufficiently, tinker with electronics, and enjoy the quiet sounds of nature. Overgrown fields and a weathered farmhouse made him smile because he saw potential, not problems. His love for DIY electronics and automation had already transformed his farm into a small technological marvel. Automated irrigation, solar-powered chicken coops, and even a goat monitoring system. His weekends buzzed with visitors buying fresh eggs, and his life was simple, content, and productive. But all that changed with one letter. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Ethan, covered in hay and grease from installing a new feeding system, checked the mailbox. Among the usual bills and catalogs, there was a formal, official-looking letter. His heart sank as he read the words. An urgent HOA meeting scheduled at the Golden Meadows Community Center. The vague reason, security issues and illegal road usage, confused him. He wasn't a member of the HOA, but he had a recorded easement that granted him access to his land through the main road, a right established long before the HOA's rules. Curiosity and frustration drove Ethan to attend the meeting. The community center was filled with well-dressed residents, many chatting about landscaping, pools, and summer barbecues. Ethan recognized some faces, Frank and Eleanor Hamilton, friendly neighbors who had always supported him. But as he looked around, he felt a prick of unease. At the front, a tall man in an expensive suit, Maxwell Bennett, introduced himself as the new HOA president. His smile was too perfect, his tone overly smooth. Maxwell launched into talk about the upcoming development plans. Renderings of luxurious homes, a private clubhouse, tennis courts, and a shiny new security gate filled the screen. Ethan's blood ran cold. They were planning to develop the land next to his property, which, in their words, was unsightly ranch traffic that lowered property values. Ethan's farm was an eyesore? The word stung worse than the rain that suddenly started pounding the roof as Maxwell announced they'd start building the gate tomorrow. Ethan couldn't hold back. He stood up sharply, voice steady but firm. "Excuse me," he said, "I own that land. I have a legal easement. You can't block my access without a legal process." Silence fell. Maxwell's smile didn't falter, but his eyes flickered with disdain as he dismissively told Ethan that the HOA had full authority, and his ranch was an eyesore threatening property values. The room grew quieter, tense with unspoken threats. Ethan looked around. Some neighbors looked uncomfortable, others curious. Maxwell offered him the chance to buy a $300 annual access card, a generous offer to continue using the road. Ethan's face flushed with anger. "That's not how easements work," he snapped. "My rights are recorded and permanent. You can't just vote them away." Maxwell's smile turned colder. "Times change, Mr. Morgan," he said, "and so do rules." He moved on, leaving Ethan standing in a storm of disbelief and fury. Outside, the rain had stopped, but Ethan's mind was racing. A neighbor, George Miller, approached cautiously. "They're planning to pressure you into selling," George whispered. "First restrictions, then other problems. They've done this before." Ethan's heart pounded as he realized this was just the beginning. That night he called Olivia, a lawyer friend, for advice. She told him to get a certified copy of his easement immediately. If it was recorded properly, they couldn't legally block him. But fixing this would take time, and Maxwell was already moving fast. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of heavy machinery. His worst fears confirmed. Maxwell's crew was erecting a tall metal fence with an electronic gate right across his access road. By the time Ethan reached the scene, the fence was almost complete, the gate locked and unyielding, effectively cutting him off. Maxwell arrived with a smug grin, waving a permit. "This is HOA property now," he said, "and you'll need to pay $3,000 a year to cross it." Ethan's fist clenched. "That's illegal," he said. "I have a recorded easement." Maxwell's smile didn't waver, but he warned Ethan to apply for a temporary access card or face inconvenience. Ethan took the card, but inside, fury erupted. He went straight to the county records office and confirmed his easement was valid, unbreakable in fact. Olivia backed him up, telling him to document everything and prepare for legal action. But Maxwell was already acting. His crew had left survey marks and Ethan knew something was wrong. He studied the land survey and spotted it. The HOA's new gate encroached onto his property. Just a few feet, but enough to give Ethan leverage. Maxwell was trying to claim his land and he was doing it quietly and illegally. A plan formed in Ethan's mind. With his electronic skills, he decided to build his own toll booth on his property right next to the HOA gate. Over that weekend, under cover of darkness, he and his friend Ryan worked tirelessly. They erected a sturdy, professional-looking toll booth with cameras, a payment terminal, and an automated barrier. It looked official. It was legal. By Sunday, cars were paying to cross the road on Ethan's land. Confused residents paid $20 each, some angry, some amused. But Maxwell was furious. When he saw the toll booth, he stormed over, demanding it be shut down. Ethan calmly explained, "I'm just exercising my rights. You're charging for crossing your own gate. I'm doing the same." Maxwell threatened to call the police. Ethan invited him to do so, knowing his documentation was solid. When Maxwell called, the officer arrived, examined Ethan's paperwork, and confirmed Ethan's rights. Maxwell's face turned crimson. The law was on Ethan's side, but Maxwell didn't give up. He was a man used to controlling everything, and he fought back with legal threats, sabotage, and even vandalism. His crew damaged Ethan's toll booth under cover of night, spray painting over cameras and smashing equipment. Ethan responded by installing more security, recording everything and sharing the footage online. The scandal grew. Meanwhile, Ethan dug deeper into Maxwell's background. He discovered Maxwell had a conflict of interest. He was secretly tied to the developers planning the big estate. Maxwell had falsified permits, concealed his dealings, and plotted to force Ethan to sell. Ethan didn't just sit back. He confronted Maxwell directly, inviting him to negotiate. But Maxwell, overconfident, refused. Instead, he threatened a long, legal battle designed to bankrupt Ethan. That was when Ethan took action. He released all evidence publicly, videos, emails, documents. The community saw Maxwell's true intentions. His reputation crumbled as residents turned against him. The HOA fired him, and the development deal fell apart. In the aftermath, the community rallied. The HOA reformed, and Ethan's land was officially recognized with a permanent easement. Maxwell sold his house and moved away, his dreams of wealth shattered. Ethan turned his ranch into a community farm and education center, transforming conflict into cooperation. And so, the quiet farm that almost became a symbol of greed became a beacon of resilience and community strength. All because one stubborn rancher refused to back down, proving that sometimes a little ingenuity and a lot of courage can turn the tide. Maxwell Bennett's eyes widened with pure fury as he watched the footage on his phone. His own people vandalizing my toll booth. In the dead of night, spray paint on the cameras, the barrier arms smashed to pieces, and him, dressed in that hoodie trying to erase evidence. He thought he could get away with it, that I'd back down. But the truth was right there in the cloud, clear, undeniable. I hit replay watching him in that hoodie, knowing I now had him dead to rights. My heart pounded with adrenaline. This wasn't just about a fence anymore. It was about exposing the real game he was playing. I didn't hesitate. I called the police again, this time demanding they arrest him for vandalism and trespassing. I sent them the video, along with every piece of evidence I'd collected. I knew Maxwell's arrogance wouldn't let him admit he was caught, but the proof was irrefutable. I sat back, watching his smug face turn pale as he realized I wasn't just some quiet rancher. I was now the one holding all the cards. Within hours, my phone buzzed with messages. Olivia called first, her voice sharp and serious. "Ethan, they're panicking. That video is gold, but don't get cocky. They'll try everything to spin this, and Maxwell's not going down alone. Be ready for more trouble." I nodded, feeling the weight of the battle shifting. Maxwell's team was desperate, and I had the evidence to back it up. I knew he'd come at me harder, I had to stay one step ahead. Suddenly, my phone lit up with a new message. It was an anonymous tip. Maxwell's next move. A legal strike. To freeze your bank accounts, anything to shut you down. Watch out. My stomach dropped. I'd known he was ruthless, but this was next level. I pulled out my laptop, started digging into Maxwell's financials. I'd already uncovered his secret ties to the developers, but now I needed more. Anything he'd used to finance this scheme, any hidden accounts. I wasn't just fighting for my land, I was fighting for my survival. Just then, my doorbell rang. I opened the door cautiously. Standing there was a tall, lean man I didn't recognize, wearing sunglasses even inside. "You Ethan Morgan?" he asked softly. "I've got information. Maxwell's got a backup plan, something big. You need to see this." My pulse quickened. How did he know my name? What was this new twist? He handed me a flash drive, then quickly disappeared into the night. I stared at it, heart pounding. I knew this wasn't just some random tip. It was a warning, a sign that Maxwell's desperation had reached dangerous levels. I plugged in the drive and saw a folder labeled Operation Override. Inside were files, detailed plans for a secret legal assault, maps, and even a list of contacts Maxwell was calling in. This was his ace, an attempt to use the courts, the law, and underhanded tactics to crush me, but I wasn't about to let him win. I had Olivia digging into every detail, my own surveillance footage and the proof I needed. I was ready to fight fire with fire. I had one last ace, something Maxwell wouldn't see coming. I grabbed my phone and texted Olivia. "Let's go. Public. This ends now." I knew that once the truth was out, Maxwell's house of cards would fall. The community would see him for what he truly was, a manipulator and a liar. As I looked out over my land, I realized the battle wasn't just about a fence or a toll booth anymore. It was about standing up for what's right, exposing corruption and fighting back against those who think money can buy justice. Maxwell had made his move, but I was ready, and this was only the beginning. The courtroom was dead silent. Every eye was fixed on the scene unfolding before them. Maxwell Bennett, once so arrogant and confident, now sat frozen, his face drained of color. The evidence was irrefutable. Videos, emails, official documents, everything pointed straight at him. His lies, his schemes, his attempts to manipulate the court, all crumbling beneath the weight of truth. His empire of deceit was unraveling, right here, right now. Olivia stepped forward, her voice calm but unwavering. She played the final piece of the puzzle, the recordings of Maxwell's own words, where he admitted to falsifying permits, to sabotaging my land, to trying to force me off my property so he could sell it for a fortune. The courtroom gasped as the truth sank in. The room erupted in whispers, some in shock, others in anger. It was as if a dam had burst and the flood of revelations could no longer be contained. Maxwell's face twisted in desperation. He tried to deny everything, to spin a web of lies again, but the evidence was too overwhelming. His voice cracked as he stammered, trying to cling to his last shreds of control. But the judge's gavel struck the bench with a resounding thud, silencing him instantly. "This court finds in favor of Mr. Morgan," the judge declared, his voice echoing through the courtroom. "Maxwell Bennett, you are hereby ordered to cease all interference with Mr. Morgan's property rights, to remove the illegal fence, and to pay restitution for damages and legal fees." A thunderous applause erupted from the crowd, some crying, tears of relief, others cheering loudly. I felt a rush of relief flood through me, relief that justice was finally being served. My heart pounding, I looked directly at Maxwell, who was now glaring at me with pure hatred, his eyes burning with rage and defeat. He knew he had lost everything, his reputation, his plans, his control over the land. But as he was led out of the courtroom, Maxwell turned back for one final chilling glance. His eyes burned with a dangerous promise. "This isn't over," he hissed, voice low and threatening. "I've got connections. I'll make sure you regret this. You think you've won today, but I'll be back. And next time, you won't. Be so lucky." A shiver ran down my spine. I knew he meant every word. Maxwell Bennett was a man who played dirty, who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. But I also knew I had won the battle. This chapter of the war, at least. My land was finally mine, protected by law, and the truth was out. In the days that followed, the community rallied around me. The local residents, once divided, now came together, inspired by the fight for justice. The HOA was reformed, and Maxwell's influence dissolved. The development plans that threatened our land were abandoned. Instead, we decided to preserve the land, to make it a place of beauty and community, not greed and corruption. But the biggest twist came when I received an anonymous message. It was a simple note, but its words shook me to my core. Maxwell isn't done. He's got one last move, something bigger, something darker. Be ready. Attached was a small, encrypted file. I hesitated, heart pounding, then carefully unlocked. Inside were plans for a secret operation, an attempt to sabotage, to retaliate, and to destroy me from the shadows. The realization hit me like a lightning bolt. Maxwell's threats were just the beginning. He had been playing a long game, and I had only seen the surface. Now the real battle was about to begin. I knew I couldn't face this alone. I reached out to Olivia, who was already digging into the new evidence. We prepared ourselves for the storm ahead, knowing that Maxwell's last move could be anything: dangerous, unpredictable, deadly. And then, amidst the chaos, I found something I never expected. A hidden ledger, tucked away in an old safe I'd never noticed before. It belonged to Maxwell, and inside, I discovered his true secrets, his real source of power, his real connections, and a shocking truth that changed everything. Maxwell Bennett wasn't just a corrupt landowner. He was part of a much larger network of influence: politicians, developers, even law enforcement. They had all been bought, all controlled by a web of greed and corruption that spanned far beyond our little town. I realized that my victory in court was just the beginning, the tip of an iceberg. The final twist was the most devastating of all. As I uncovered the truth, I received a call from an unknown number. "You think you've won?" a cold voice whispered. "But Maxwell's biggest secret is still safe, and if you don't back off, it'll be your turn next. Remember, some battles can't be won with laws. They're fought in the shadows." My blood ran cold. I understood now that I'd stepped into a world much darker than I'd ever imagined. Maxwell Bennett's story was far from over, and neither was the war. But I also knew I had something he didn't: truth, justice, and an unbreakable will to protect what was mine. This wasn't just a fight for land anymore. It was a battle for the soul of our community, for our future. And I was ready. Because sometimes the greatest victories come from the deepest darkness. And I was determined to emerge from it stronger and wiser than ever before. As I looked out over my land, the sun setting behind the hills, I whispered to myself, "This is only the beginning." And deep down, I knew that no matter what came, next I would stand tall, because the truth had already won, and nothing could take that away from me.